Welcome to IJ Forum. I'm Dick Spotswood, government and politics columnist for the Marin Independent Journal. According to the IJ, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, the Bay Area's transportation agency, is seeking an expansion of carpool lanes in the US 101 corridor here in Marin and Sonoma counties. The idea is that the current carpool lanes, which are in the morning going north or going south, are from 6:30 to 8:30, would be expanded from 6:30 to 10. And in the northbound direction, which are now 4:30 to 7, would be expanded from 3 p.m. in the afternoon to 7. So an hour and a half extra in each direction every weekday is the plan from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. We're here to discuss that plan, its implications to the people of the North Bay. Will it help? Will it hurt? Will it help some and hurt others? That's the question that's going to come before us. The MTC has not made a decision yet, so it's still something we have some input on, and we're glad to have two people extremely knowledgeable in mobility in Marin County. From the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, a San Anselmo resident. Andrew Firmiger, did I pronounce that right?
Thank you, Dick, yes.
Andy is the person who is the point person on this, and a little bit about him. He's the deputy director for operations. He's the Deputy Executive Director of the Bay Area Toll Authority, which has become, in recent years, a pretty powerful body. He is a licensed civil engineer. He's been previously with Caltrans. Everybody we have on the show dealing with mobility has spent their time at Caltrans. And you hold a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the Cal Poly Mustangs. I'm a two-year Mustang myself. So,
is that right?
Indeed.
My daughter is a Mustang as well.
Hard to get into now. Andy, welcome to IJ Forum.
Thank you, Dick.
Also with us is the Executive Director of the Marin County Transportation Agency, a previous guest here on IJ Forum, Diane Steinhauser. Diane has been for the Transportation Authority of Marin, the point person for some years. She previously was at ABAG briefly. She was at Caltrans, and she has participated in her earlier days working on the carpool lanes right here in Marin County. You did some of the environmental work, I believe, when it was being put together.
And we managed the design and some of the construction too.
Okay, so people know what they're talking about. So Andy, what's this idea about expanding the carpool lanes? It makes people in Marin County a little nervous when they think that some capacity is going to go away from a freeway, which you're already at and exceeds capacity.
Sure, Dick. Let me, I think the best way to answer that question is to put a little context on it and then also discuss some of the changes that we have made in our proposal in reaction to some of the concerns that have been brought forward, and then sort of close with what authority we have and don't have. So a couple of years ago, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission embarked on a study of all of the HOV lanes around the 9 Bay Area counties and have been capitalizing on work that Caltrans used to do consistently in terms of vehicle counts and violators and the types of vehicles in the lanes, and updated that for areas that they haven't covered regularly, and presented that information to all of the 9 Bay Area CMA counties, congestion management agencies, Caltrans, the California Highway Patrol, and started talking about sort of the state of the system. And what we found around the region is that the current HOV hours of operation, one, don't match the current congestion that we have in many areas, and two, the congestion is such that the HOV lanes break down and are degraded and don't operate as well as they should. They still move quite a bit of people through the system, and they work better in overall people throughput than the general purpose lanes, but they don't work as well as they were designed. And so we really wanted to try to tackle that particular problem as best we could, recognizing that we are not trying to solve congestion. We are dealing with the edges of reliability and trying to provide a system where the commuter can dependably know how long it's going to get from point A to point B. Congestion is not going to be solved by playing around with the hours of operations by itself. Secondarily, we came up with the conclusion in the Marin corridor that the actual congestion is the hours that you described, which are significantly longer in both directions than the HOV hours that are posted and managed by the Caltrans and the Highway Patrol. And so we tried to capture that congestion as a starting point. In terms of conversations with the Golden Gate Bridge District, a couple of meetings with the Transportation Authority of Marin, in conversations with Caltrans and the committee that is responsible for deciding hours of occupancy or hours of operations and occupancy, we made some adjustments. because we believe that even the minor adjustments that we're talking about will provide quite a bit of an opportunity to test whether or not we can be effective at making people change their modes of transportation, even incrementally. Because the other thing that we've identified is a very small change in traffic patterns. So if you focus on a very unusual holiday like Columbus Day, we see a much more reliable commute on those days by just moving 5% of the people out of the lanes. So our premise is that if we can make a small mode shift, and it's a little bit of the chicken and the egg because you can't get people to move unless you can provide some reliability, we think we can be effective at improving really all the commute patterns in this particular congested corridor. And so the modification that we have made in the proposal, really in reaction to several TAM commissioners, is to focus on really just providing a pilot in the southbound direction only and extending the current hours of operations only 1/2 hour from 8:30 to 9. And we chose that for a very particular reason. One is there was considerable concern that by expanding the hours to 10 o'clock, we would provide a significant disruption. And while we don't believe that's true, that was the response that we got. When you overlay the mass transit that's in the corridor today, there are about 11 buses that go through that corridor from 8:30 to 9, with quite a bit of capacity already in those buses that offer the opportunity for people to shift modes and enjoy transport into San Francisco. And so we've requested of both Caltrans and TAM that they support just a pilot in the southbound direction initially that would extend the hours from 6:30 to 9 from the current 6:30 to 8.
So the idea is you have some demographic or some matrix based upon that half hour to see if it's doing any good.
Correct. It's very easy to count. In other words, we have very accurate bus counts between the work that Golden Gate does in collecting their transit details. We will be able to tell if we get a spike and an improvement in additional bus riders by making the change because the hours are that much more reliable. And we think it's significant. Golden Gate is also committed to providing larger buses if we're successful. So they've got
How do they do that?
Well, they've got a combination of 2 different size buses, and they've got a 47-seater and one that has a few more seats. So their point is they could, if we can fill the existing capacity, they could add a few more seats without providing any real additional service. And again, that's very measurable. In addition to that, we can count carpools. And while it's not as accurate as transit riders, we can get a good sense as to whether or not we're creating additional carpools that make that lane work very effectively. We believe that today, even degraded, we're moving more people through that lane. The goal is to move even more people through the existing corridor without any capital investment and take advantage of that slight mode shift to hopefully assist everybody in getting through the commute, marginally.
Diane, it's a big change from where they originally are, but what's TAM's position on the new, shall we say it?
Pilot.
Well, a pilot, I always distrust the word pilot because pilot usually seems to be something that it means that you can't get a vote unless you put it in pilot, if you know what I mean. Everybody's hesitant. Well, just try it. But that's okay if we try. This is more of a test, it seems to me, than what was originally proposed. This seems more like, let's see what a half hour does. Does that make more sense? And does it make enough sense that you'd support it?
Well, I want to start by saying how much we appreciate that MTC has spent time in the corridor. They've looked at our express bus service, our park and rides. They're wholly funding the upcoming 3rd lane eastbound on the Richmond Bridge, a job that Andy's been very involved in managing. And so they're working with us to try and improve the number one priority of residents and businesses and those that are passing through, which is congestion. So we're very interested in the impact that this proposal would have on congestion. So we appreciate that it's a much more modest proposal in terms of this test.
Modest, right.
Okay, but we still don't think it meets the requirements and the issues that have been raised by my board, the TAM board. We are promoting more of a systems approach to improving our entire highway system in Marin. We recognize that this is a valuable piece, and we believe it could be done someday, but with the information that we've received from MTC and from Caltrans, we know that those 10 or 11 buses might add a few more seats. And Golden Gate has reported those buses are full now. But we've got 3 lanes of highway traffic, and it's about 2,000 vehicles per lane. So 6,000 vehicles an hour on the highway. And they'll get about a 6-7 minute increase, each one of them, in their travel time, just with this half-hour change. That's a 35% increase in their delay on the highway. So we're a little reluctant to support what, you know, is one of our components to promoting people not driving alone. You know, we have a local sales tax we manage. 55% goes into local transit. We manage that. We've done a lot of improvements. We want to support and manage transit. We're supporting SMART and our programs to get people to and from SMART. Check out the TAM website and our program with Lyft that will get you to and from SMART for free. And so we're not blind to giving people options. We just have a very fragile system, Dick, and we learned that. I'll give you a great example when we put a signal in at the Tennessee Valley intersection with Highway 1.
Yes,
Who
indeed.
knew that an entire system involving Highway 1 and El Monte and Blythedale and Miller in the interchange at Tiburon East Blythedale would fail based on what was really a small improvement to get people and cyclists in and out of a community? We think 101 is equally as fragile. We're very nervous that even a half an hour change, if not done with other system components at the same time, will be the best thing for residents and businesses. Our businesses are having a tremendous difficult time attracting workers to Marin. We know that our 25-year growth in jobs has been achieved in just the past 3 or 4 years. So we're importing a lot of workers, and they're constantly telling me, you got to help with congestion on 101. Any increase in congestion is going to be very, very difficult for us to support, and this proposal does increase congestion. Now, can we do it eventually? Let's identify and get moving on closing that connection between Marin and Sonoma known as the Narrows. Let's identify funding and get going on the connector from 101 to 580 in San Rafael. Let's identify and get going on ramp metering, which is going to control people entering the freeway. We support that. We've been doing a lot of work on that at TAM. And we know that that will not negatively affect local roads. And we also want to look at bus on shoulders. We also want to look at unique ways to do enforcement. The CHPs expressed concerns, additional congestion, the potential for additional accidents. How is that going to be addressed? So we think that this is a piece of a puzzle, and we have identified all the pieces. We're working with MTC on almost all of them right now, but we're reluctant to go forward with one unless there's something for everybody else on the highway.
Andy, one of the things
That's
Diane
our
mentioned was
approach.
that the existing traffic would be 35% degraded. Once again, going back to metrics or measurements, would you be able to tell that in your study?
Yeah, I do believe we would, Dick, and I guess a couple of things. One, let me also agree with Diane that we think that the suite of solutions on this corridor are all the things that she described. So we're very supportive of the work that they're doing to improve Sir Francis Drake, along with the third lane that we're building on the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge. We've always supported the Narrows. We've supported the ramp metering as a good, effective solution. We disagree in that they need to be done together. In fact, we specifically believe that by waiting for that to happen, you'll take many years before you have any improvement on any of those individual projects that were described beyond the third lane and some of the work on Drake. I would also indicate that one of the assignments that we had in terms of coming back and providing more information to the locals on what our assumptions were has provided different answers to the questions that were being asked. So as you asked about the original assumption being till 10 o'clock, we've modified that. We've also done quite a bit more work with the Golden Gate Bridge District, and they have come back and indicated that they do have additional capacity today on their buses, significant, especially in that half hour where there'll be 11 buses going through. So we do think there's capacity there, which is different than they presented to us in the past, but we've done some good study with them directly. The CHP has indicated that they were concerned about accidents, but they don't know that there's going to be some. So we would measure that, and we would be able to tell whether or not that was the case. We did a study that Diane referred to that indicated you might see an additional 6 minutes of delay, 5 or 6 minutes of delay on the general purpose lanes if you did not get any mode shift. And that's the chicken and the egg that we're really trying to address. If we're effective at filling those seats on the Golden Gate buses and using more modern tools to create 2+ carpools, which are not that difficult to create, we would see a significant change in that analysis to the point where we believe we could provide a benefit to all lanes, assuming we can get a minor shift in modes for a small percentage of the people going through the corridor. So we think this is an effective experiment that involves only decals on a sign that can be replaced and addressing a question that's been on the table for about 40 years since the last time we changed them.
What percentage of the mode is going to the city and the corridor?
Diane might be the best to answer that.
Well, oh boy, when we studied Doyle Drive and how we were going to be able to fund the shortfall there, we realized that 60% of the users on Doyle were from Marin County. I think our mode share with our most recent studies is in the range of about 30 to 40%.
On the corridor?
Are going to San Francisco in the AM.
Where I'm coming from is just as a person who used to commute every day and who doesn't commute to the city anymore as a professional matter. I'm going up and down the corridor constantly. It's impossible to take a carpool to come to a taping like this. There's no bus service. It's not like New York City where the matrix is such as everywhere you can go. I have no choice. And there's no prospect in the future until autonomous cars come. They'll have a choice. So how do you get folks like me into that carpool lane in a carpool or a bus?
Well, Dick, look, there's an overall question here that I think we all need to address as a society, and that is how much driving should we be doing to take care of the planet we live in. But that aside, we do think that, again, representing the fact that a small change in traffic patterns makes a significant change in reliability, and recognizing that the tool we're talking about is not a significant investment. This is not a new lane that provides additional capacity. This is a very small piece of a very complicated puzzle that we think will give incremental benefits and, again, deal with the question of reliability. If you know how long it takes you to get from point A to point B, then you're much more inclined to take that travel. For instance, I do go to the city every day and I take the ferry. The ferry is on time. I know how long it's going to take me. I still need to get in my car to get home, but I've got a pretty reliable commute. I don't get that same guarantee in the bus today, which makes it very difficult to make that bus my choice. And that same question is the question that the driver is having to deal with in terms of their decision in how to get to and from the city. And again, recognizing that Marin does have quite a bit of local traffic, we're not trying to change the patterns of every driver. We think it's the small percentage of drivers that are doing the long commutes that will make an effective benefit for all the travelers on the corridor. We would like to see behavior change a little bit, though, and not provide Marin 101 as the main street. And those are longer-term solutions. Those are harder to solve. This is not trying to get at that. Again, recognizing there's no environmental document associated with what we're talking about. There's no big capital investment, and it's trying to take advantage of the capacity opportunities that are there today.
How long would you propose it would last?
We think we need about 6 months to make it work in terms of effectiveness. We do think it takes a little bit of time to convince people that the bus is now on time. Golden Gate Bridge is willing to show how their travel times are changing. They're willing to express what kinds of additional changes in mode shift they've made. We also think we have a great relationship with actually some of the folks that Diane's mentioning that are tools that are available today in the app environment. So there's an app called Scoop, there's Waze Rider, there's Uber Pool that are not designed to pick you up, they're designed to create carpools. And they're pretty effective, especially in the 2+ environment. There is a huge amount of capacity in the Marin and Sonoma corridors with the park and rides. We think that there's a way to tie all this stuff together, but that obviously takes a little bit of time to really make an effective change. But we think we'll see effective changes within a few months. And again, it's a decal on a sign if it doesn't work well.
I smile only because many years ago there was a proposal in Marin County that we change the lane configuration on the Golden Gate Bridge. It was editorialized in our newspaper, but I was the Golden Gate Bridge director, and I picked it up and I said, we ought to do this. And to my amazement, staff says, yes, we'll try it. One day, and we forgot about it. I forgot about it. One day I'm driving home down Park Presidio back to San Francisco, and the traffic was horrible. Horrible. I said, oh my God, they're trying my test today. Thankfully, the wisdom of the Golden Gate Bridge manager canceled it at 5:30, opened up the lane again. It was a fiasco. And unfortunately, since the IJ and all the folks were behind it with me, it went away. But it was a fiasco quickly. Are you prepared to cut a test short if you find out that you've replicated my fiasco?
The beauty is we could, absolutely. We would like to encourage folks to give it some time because we are asking for some change, incremental change. But the basic answer is you could change it overnight if you so chose. So if for whatever reason there was a problem that was significant, which no analysis has indicated that would be the case, we could change it. So there is a fail-safe contingency plan.
State Senator Mike McGuire issued a pretty strong statement supporting, I think, Marin County's position. I'm not sure if Sonoma has a position on this yet.
Sonoma doesn't have a formal position on this that we know
But Senator McGuire's position was quite supportive of Marin County's position, and one of his criticisms was that there was inadequate outreach to the communities.
Correct.
Do we have adequate outreach yet?
No, we do not. I mean, we're still at the point where we believe that our constituents and our public in Marin deserve better than this proposal. We're still at the point where we are believing we have a fragile system that needs multiple components implemented at least close to each other in time for us to provide service and mobility for everybody that uses this corridor. We got a draft outreach plan. It was pretty generic. I think that outreach is possible. We haven't seen the messaging. We haven't seen the success spelled out. We're going to remain nervous, and we're going to remain protective of all of our constituents that are using this highway in Marin. Andy talked a little bit there about Main Street. We don't have a strong local road network north and south in Marin at all. So yes, we have a lot of folks that get on 101 and use it for one or two interchanges. Speaking of the past, the hours of operations were changed back in July of 1998. I don't know if you or your viewers might remember this, but they were changed back very quickly.
They did. What was the story?
There was a desire to again encourage more carpool, vanpool bus usage. The traffic congestion was significant, and within a few months the hours were returned. We are reminded of that quite a bit. So our task is to manage the entire system for all the users. And we're, again, with the sensitivity that this corridor has right now, we're very reluctant to support a single solution tested without some of the other components implemented and also underway.
Andy, you said something to me.
Could I actually mention a couple of things there? Because I think those are all really interesting points. First of all, what was done 40 years ago was much more significant than we're proposing today. So we think this is a much different case study. There is quite a bit of untapped express bus system in the corridor today. People are driving very differently today than they have in the past, and we do believe that there's more tools available to them. And any of the fixes that we're talking about in the southbound direction are years away. There is no project coming down the road today, tomorrow, or for several years that's going to assist in this question. So we get to live with this for a period of time under any scenario.
You said something to me that you mentioned Uber Pool. And I know that in parts of New York City, Uber Pool has become a significant factor in moving people from like up in by Columbia down to central and lower Manhattan. It seems to me when we're fooling around with 1975, 780 style carpooling hours, we're maybe missing the fact that we're changing so much. And there are other intriguing ideas out there. As Diane suggested, maybe they're done in a comprehensive fashion. Are you guys pursuing something where versions like an enhanced or facilitated Uber pool or some type of Lyft pool or whatever your provider is concerned might be considered?
We've actually had quite a bit of experience now with the app industry, I'll say as a generic question, and we've developed relationships with many of them, both to share information and to try to provide a platform for them to be even more successful. And by and large, every one of them comes to us and says, if you give us a better footprint, we can provide more service. And what they mean by that is things like extended hours of operations, or in areas where you've got many more tools than Marin has, expand the occupancy requirements, things like that, that give them a platform in which to create a benefit that makes people want to change their mode. That's the exact same message that Marin Transit and Golden Gate Transit are telling us. They are both extremely supportive of this proposal, and it's for that same reason, that if we can give them a carpool lane that works more effectively, that allows them to provide consistent operating time schedules that are an improvement over the single occupancy driver, they will be successful, and we believe that to be true in both cases.
Of course, Golden Gate and Marin Transit have a constituency, bus riders, and Diane's constituency is everybody, which is.
Well, and let me say another thing about Golden Gate and Marin Transit. We've been promoting and working towards the implementation of buses being able to use the shoulders. You know,
Right.
in Marin, we have a very unique scenario where we have freeway bus stops. And we've done a lot of work improving people's access to and from those bus stops. We are hoping that another way to enhance this travel time and reliability better for Marin Transit buses especially, who can't go all the way over and then to use the carpool lane and then come back and take that next off-ramp and pick up passengers, is to put buses on the shoulder. We are working hard and would like MTC's continued support and Caltrans support on a bus on shoulder pilot. You know, this would be, in our opinion, a much better travel time enhancer and assurance that Andy talks about than expecting local buses to move over and use the carpool lane for a very short distance. So we're looking at that in Northern Marin. We have the shoulder area to do that. And let's hope that that's another way. Again, it's one of the tools that we're hoping to pursue.
You know, so Dick, on that
enhance
too,
transit users.
absolutely agree. We think that's a wonderful approach, and we support it 100%. But you're talking about a legislative change, and you're likely talking about a civil construction project to improve the condition of the shoulders, likely. So that's not going to happen tomorrow. But we are very supportive of that as well. We think it's a wonderful idea.
To me that the compromise here is pilot program going south, shoulder buses going north, see how they work. Listen, one of these days I'd love to have you guys back and talk about the future, a little more projections, because transportation is going to change dramatically in the next 10, 15 years, dramatically, and we're doing things now that don't necessarily take that into consideration. I want to thank you for coming today and talking about what's happening perhaps rather sooner than the future. Andy, it's just a pleasure. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Diane, we look forward to having you again. You've been here before. Thanks for being on IJ Forum. I'm Dick Spotswood for the Marin Independent Journal.